Storytellers Uncut. Each week our show highlights a storyteller from around the Metroplex and lets them show their talent for telling stories, as well as giving the audience an in-depth knowledge of who their favorite storyteller really is.
Hello, I'm BJ Scott, and welcome to Storytellers Uncut. Today I have a very special treat for y'all. Our storyteller today has traveled all over the United States focusing on her little audience from 1st to 5th graders. She performs a full variety of stories, from stories of struggles, tall tales, and Aesop fables. She can also be seen on a regular basis as the host of ICTN's Art and Entertainment show, About Town, and Profiles interview show. Without any further delay, Miss Kathy Whiteman.
There was once a little boy who wanted to play a game of hide and seek with his father. Every time he'd do this, his father would always say, "My son, I am your father. I will always know where to find you." So the little boy wanted to find a special place to hide on this day. He looked all over the yard. He thought about hiding under the house, but that was too scary. He was just about to give up when he spotted a peanut right there on the ground. He thought to himself, "If I could hide inside this peanut, my Baba would not find me. Oh, I wish that I could hide inside the peanut." No sooner than he wished it, it was done. He was inside the peanut, and he thought to himself, "My Baba will not find me now, no." The boy didn't know it, but there was a rooster in the yard. The rooster came along and saw that peanut, put his head down, and snapped it up. Well, the rooster didn't know it, but there was a bush cat right at the edge of the bush. The bush cat came sneaking out, and as soon as it got close enough, reached out and snapped it up. The bush cat didn't know there was a hyena hiding right near the house. The bush cat saw the hyena and ran into the bush. But the hyena was faster, and it finally caught up and reached out and snapped it up. Well, then the hyena was thirsty, so it made its way down the long, winding path through the bush to the edge of the water. The hyena didn't know it, but there was a snake in the water. He put his head down, the snake put his head up and snapped it up. Well, that must have been a pretty big snake, a long snake like an anaconda. When a snake like that snaps up a hyena, it's a long snake with a big hump right in the middle. It couldn't move, so it flopped back into the water to wait. Sure enough, the sun had climbed across the sky and was just about to sit down on the other side of the mountain when the man came out of his house. He was a fisherman, so it was time for him to go and pull his net from the water, but first he would find his son. So he strolled to the edge of the yard where the boy usually hid, but his son wasn't there. And the man thought to himself, "Ah, my son has found a new place to hide, the tree." So he strolled over to the other edge of the yard, and he looked in the branches of the tree, but his son wasn't there either. And then the man began to worry. He thought to himself, "My son has grown older and become bolder. Perhaps he thought to go and hide in the bush, but the bush is not a safe place for one so young to hide." So he walked down the long winding path through the bush, and he looked for his son, and he looked for his son, but by the time he made it to the water's edge, he hadn't found his boy. And he was so sad. He reached into the water to pull out the net, to pull. And finally it came out, and what do you suppose was in it? It was the snake. He opened up the snake's mouth, stuck his hand way in, and pulled out the hyena. He opened up the hyena's mouth and stuck his hand in and pulled out the bush cat. Opened up the bush cat's mouth, stuck his hand in and pulled out the rooster. Opened up the rooster's mouth, stuck in 2 fingers and pulled out the peanut. Snapped open the shell and out came his son. The man said, "My son, I told you I am your father. I will always know where to find you." But that little boy never tried to hide from his father again. Hi, BJ.
Wonderful job.
Thank you very much.
So, Miss Whiteman, or Kathy, which do you prefer?
Please call me Kathy.
Kathy. So what inspired you to do this?
Well, I come from a family of storytellers, and I believe that most people have a story to tell. That's why I do both sides of the business that I do. I'm very interested in helping other people tell their stories, which is what I get a chance to do with Urban Community Television. And I'm very interested in telling stories that I find from different parts of the world. That story comes from East Africa, probably Uganda or Tanzania, and it's an old tale. I learned it for a younger audience, for my babies, as I call them, my first through second, third graders, that kind of thing. But I find that even when I tell it to audiences that are older, they really enjoy the story as well. So I think that it's because I come from a tradition of storytellers that I have a real love for it.
Wow, that's wonderful. How long have you been telling stories?
Oh, gosh. If you'd asked my mother that question, she'd say since I started talking. But professionally now for almost 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 20 years.
That's awesome. Have you had any trials and tribulations being an African-American storyteller?
Not really.
Not really?
Not really. Storytellers are going to face problems in the classroom because if you're going to do a really good job as a storyteller, you've also got to have some classroom management skills or audience management skills. And if you don't have those, it'll make the storytelling difficult for you. What I find is that if you are a good storyteller, you'll get hired, and if you're not a good storyteller, you won't. So that's it, yeah.
Do you have any favorite stories you like to tell?
You know, when people ask me that question, I always say the story that I love the most is the one that I'm telling at that particular time.
Really?
I have probably about 56 stories in my repertoire. Wow. And they're stories from all over Africa, all over the Caribbean, all over the southern part of the United States. I tell a lot of Brer Rabbit stories, and I guess that really does hold true. The thing that I'm telling, I get immersed in the story, and find new things to love about the stories all the time. So yeah, I don't have a favorite. Right, the favorite one is the one I'm telling.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What do you think is your most unusual stories you tell?
Most unusual story to tell. Ooh, that's a tough one. Let me think about that for just a second. I have a story that I wrote for my children that has to do with a little boy who talked too much.
Okay.
I don't know why I would come up with something like that. But anyway, and that's probably one of my most requested stories from people that have heard me tell before. They say, oh, you got to tell that Igbo story. Probably unusual just in the fact that there's so many moments in the story that both parents and kids can relate to.
Oh, okay.
And so they like that story.
That's
and I
nice.
do too.
Yeah. Okay. Have you messed up during a storytelling?
All
Have your audience noticed when you messed up?
No, I'm a professional.
So
yeah, I do mess up.
You do mess up.
Yeah, absolutely.
While over there, I didn't notice you messed up.
Well,
so.
thank you. I appreciate that. I had a couple of times, but you know, you move past them.
Okay. Well, what do you accomplish by telling stories?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. A lot of things. At an educational level, storytelling is one of the performing arts that really has a very, very positive impact on literacy. If you can tell a story in a way that makes a kid want to go to the source material, say I tell an Anansi story that they might have from a book in their library, the kid will want to go to the source material and read it for themselves. So it really does boost, literacy in that way. The other thing is that it creates a bond between the people, the teller and the listeners. Kids always come up afterwards and they want to give me a big hug and that kind of thing. If just for a moment it gives you a chance to share something that you care about and the kids care about, so it's kind of neat.
Well, thank you, Ms. Whiteman, for allowing us for your storytelling today.
Thank you, PJ. It's my pleasure.
And thanks, you've been a great guest.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Storytellers Uncut, the show where you get to know storytellers from around the Metroplex. Please be sure to join us next week when our guest will be Stephen King. For HLS Productions, this is Mark Lewis. We'll see you next time.